Hello, this is Charles Hoskinson, and I'm making a quick video to talk a little bit about something that's an ongoing concern that's both rather surprising and a bit disturbing. So as many of you know, almost 2 years ago, the Wyoming legislature passed yet another crypto law that initially had a great degree of optimism and enthusiasm, which was for the state of Wyoming to issue a stable coin. Almost immediately after this proof of concept bill was pushed forward, many people in the Wyoming government and outside of the government reached out to Input-Output to ask our advice and suggestion of how we wanted to work with the government and others could work with the government to build this cryptocurrency, this asset-backed stablecoin. So there was a lot of discussion about who would be on the commission and also some ideas about a subcommittee structure that existed. After meeting with people in the government of Wyoming, we decided to serve on the subcommittee and provided a great degree of advice over almost a year and a half in many, many meetings about things that would need to be done for such a project to be successful and the ecosystem required for an asset-backed stablecoin to be successful, including issuance and redemption, compliance, technological standards, as well as how one could compete against things like Circle and Tether. Initially, it was a very exciting time, and many people in and outside the government of Wyoming believed that this could provide quite a bit of a revenue stream for the state, as well as allow the state to build out an ecosystem in many blockchain ecosystems. So they decided to hire an executive director by statute. This executive director came from the Ethereum ecosystem, with, I guess, some background in Polygon, and from the very beginning made statements that the coin should be issued first in the Ethereum ecosystem, which was directly against the intent of the authors of the bill, who wanted the Wyoming-based stablecoin to be multi-chain. And I was assured numerous times in private conversations and public conversations such a thing would happen. We advocated very strongly for the functional and non-functional requirements to be published by the commission so that people who wanted to qualify for the RFP could build prototypes to demonstrate that their ecosystems could support those functional and non-functional product requirements. Initially, this appeared to be the direction that the commission was pushing, and then suddenly the executive director and commission decided to create their own criteria and act as judge, jury, and executioner. And in a very short period of time, through a pre-qualification process, decided to score blockchains themselves. I guess they had the time to look at 30,000 plus blockchains and ecosystems and make arbitrary decisions about what those systems can do, asserting that they're experts in each of these blockchain ecosystems, including Cardano. There was no opportunity for public comment. There was no opportunity for appeals rebuttal. After picking a short list, Cardano was excluded, saying that we didn't have certain capabilities, which we actually do, although we were never told that these capabilities would be necessary, so we had no opportunity to prepare a prototype. This has put the commission in a place where it's given an unfair competitive advantage to other ecosystems, and the government of Wyoming has gotten in the business of picking winners and losers. This is directly against good faith in the state procurement, and this is also something that was never the intent of the people who authored the bill in the first place. I think it's both illegal and unconstitutional against the state constitution and the good faith of the laws of the state, and also I think it's a black eye on how this entire process was historically conducted and the good faith that so many people who invested so much time put into this process. You see, it's not just Cardano that was excluded. 29,900 plus blockchains were also excluded in this pre-qualification process, and no one in our ecosystem was given a fair chance to actually demonstrate that they could satisfy whatever functional or non-functional requirements the state of Wyoming cared for this project. So moving forward, there are many options, and we at IOG will pursue options at our discretion. Also, the state of Wyoming, I know several lawmakers are deeply disgruntled and disturbed by this behavior, and there are open questions of whether this entire project should be repealed or defunded as a direct consequence of the misconduct of these actions. So we'll see what happens, and we will see how this process moves forward. But it's pretty sad to have spent a year and a half, attended hundreds of meetings, sub-meetings, produced hundreds of documents, and to be told that we didn't even have the right to bid on an RFP. That's pretty sad. We had a dedicated team that we built up specifically to do not only a deployment of an asset-backed stablecoin issued by the state of Wyoming on Cardano, but also working with Maestro and the Bitcoin OS, one of the first asset-backed stablecoins to launch so that Bitcoin users could use it with Bitcoin DeFi. I guess the state of Wyoming doesn't consider Bitcoin a large ecosystem or a worthwhile ecosystem according to their own selection criteria, or one that could use a stablecoin for its DeFi layer. I guess other ecosystems are more important according to this path forward. So I'm not going to say any more on this because it's an ongoing concern and may involve litigation as a worst case scenario. But there are many people in the Cardano ecosystem who are asking about this, and I'm as blindsided as you were. I fully expected that many chains would have an opportunity to participate, whether they be Holochain or they be Algorand or Tezos or Dash, whatever, to demonstrate that they satisfy the functional and non-functional requirements, and then bid on an RFP to actually build and deploy the Wyoming-based stablecoin on their chains. And this gave me great hope that this could be an effective competitor to Tether and Circle and push back on how they've been sculpting the markets and pushing them in a particular direction. Instead, it seems to have been captured by the exact same group of people that the bill was trying to get away from. And by its design and structure, it's highly unlikely that any Wyoming businesses will be involved in the construction of this stable coin, or any Wyoming financial institutions, for that matter, will be involved in the issuance and redemption process. Probably it's going to go now to California, and probably it's going to go now to New York. If it was the intention of the Wyoming legislature to pass a bill where jobs would be taken from Wyoming and given to California and New York, and if it's the intention of the legislature for government to compete with private industry and for the state of Wyoming to give an unfair advantage to certain blockchains and hire people who think that that's an okay process to operate in an opaque way, well, then there you have it. I'd like to believe from my time living in Wyoming and working with lawmakers there and getting 31 laws passed in the cryptocurrency industry that their intention is actually the exact opposite. Through all my interactions with the people in the government of Wyoming, I've found very honest, trustworthy, and transparent people who really do want to see the cryptocurrency and blockchain industry in the state grow. I've also seen people with enough integrity to want to build an ecosystem that is diverse and neutral. They say, come and create some jobs and work with our institutions, whether it be the government itself or the University of Wyoming or the people of Wyoming, and bring innovation. And we don't particularly care if you're from Bitcoin or Ethereum or Cardano or SWI or Aptos. This is the first time in the history of the state where an agent of the state made an arbitrary and capricious decision to exclude people from participating and give no one an opportunity to really prove that they were worthy of participation. And we, as evidenced by the fact we're not even allowed to bid on the RFP. And again, that's a pretty sad thing. So moving forward, we'll consider all options. We'll certainly talk to a lot of people. Elections are always cyclic, and we will remember these things where and when they come up. And we will somehow, as a state, recover from this. And all the people who were excluded, we'll see if we can find a way to get them included. Or perhaps this entire enterprise should have never happened in the beginning, because this is the first time the state made a decision to step into the business of building things within our industry. And apparently this commission has decided to pick winners and losers in that process. Living in Wyoming, in Wheatland, and having a clinic in Gillette, and having invested hundreds of millions of dollars into infrastructure in the state and creating hundreds of jobs in the state, I'd like to believe that those investments were wise and that we will be treated fairly and rule of law prevails. I'd like to believe there's still enough people in the government of Wyoming and lawmakers in Wyoming who feel the same way. And when these things occur, we'll step up and speak up. When these things occur, to say, no, this is not how we do business in Wyoming, especially after people participated for almost a year and a half in the process and were assured every step of the way that they'd be given fair consideration. Let me be clear. When an unelected bureaucrat makes an arbitrary and capricious decision of who's allowed to even bid, that's not fair consideration. There wasn't an open RFP where we bid and lost, we're not even allowed to participate. We were told what Cardano can and can't do, and given no time or opportunity to prove otherwise. That's not how government procurement ought to work, should work, and frankly speaking, that's never been the case in the history of Wyoming. And so moving forward, we're just going to explore what we can do. So again, this is the last time I'll talk about it. This is the last time I will publicly make a statement about this through this channel. And moving forward, we're going to deal with it through the process that the state has already established and through political channels. So anyway, I do believe that Wyoming is still a great place to form a cryptocurrency business. And I do believe that there are many people who are very well intended, and they really do want Wyoming to be a great place for cryptocurrency businesses to thrive and prosper. There's a tremendous amount of competition now that the federal government is removing the enforcement provisions, and pro-crypto people are entering into the SEC, and a crypto czar is going to be appointed, which means that we will see other states like Texas and South Dakota, Colorado and Delaware and so forth start competing. If Wyoming wants to hold on to the crypto businesses that have incorporated there, they have to make sure that there's a perception it still is the best place, including a strong adherence to the rule of law and a government that doesn't pick winners and losers. Otherwise, the business will go elsewhere. And that would break my heart, because Wyoming does need these jobs. The economy does need this diversity, and it should never punish the people who have invested hundreds of millions of dollars into their state and hand it to people who live in New York and California and abroad, and into ecosystems built by people who speak Chinese, born in Russia, and live in Singapore. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me living in Wyoming, and I don't think it makes a lot of sense to you. So again, we'll get it sorted out and solved, because this is just the beginning. By no means is it the end. And remember, I live there. I'm not going anywhere.